Here it is, episode 20. We made it to the big 2-0. Boom, boom, boom. 20. It's crazy. I can't believe we're at episode 20 already. Seems like we just started this thing. But thanks for tuning in. Hope you've been enjoying it. Hope you've really appreciated some of the lessons that are coming from all the different guests that have been on the podcast so far. I've certainly appreciated the opportunity to sit down with each of them. They all carry such unique stories, and we've had a great lineup. If you haven't checked out the whole lineup, go back, episode 1 through today, episode 1 through 20, check them out. There might be one in there that you missed that you're curious about. Give it a listen, and never forget, if you love the podcast enough, smash that subscribe button on however you are listening to this, and you'll always get an update every time a new episode comes out. And again, thank you for the support. We are supported by Open Gate Farmstead. You know them. And their tagline is "Happy animals make the healthiest and tastiest product." Matt and Sarah Craig, everybody. They're running Open Gate Farmstead. It's a great operation down in Keysville, AuSable area of New York. They have a great YouTube page documenting all the cool stuff they're doing. Buy some eggs from them. They'll give you $1 off if you tell them you found out about them from the Gumption podcast. And they're just great people. Check them out. Open Gate Farmstead. They're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Check them out. Also, we're supported by Sparkle Clean. Sparkle Clean provides professional and economic cleaning solutions to residential and commercial structures. They specialize in window cleaning, floor care, carpet extraction, auto and boat detailing. Yeah. Give them a call for a free estimate. They're at 518-578-2931, or you can find them on Facebook, Instagram, and they're at Sparkle Clean, SPAR-KIL-KLEEN. That's Zach and Kate Hoyt. Everybody, they rock. If you have a cleaning need, give them a call. I'm telling you, they are doing the best stuff in town. Okay? Sparkle Clean. They're awesome. Last supporter of the podcast at the moment, Kavanaugh Realty. I really appreciate them. Thank you so much to Kavanaugh Realty for their continued support of this podcast. It keeps things moving. Kavanaugh Realty is a local independent real estate company helping their neighbors buy and sell their homes. Pretty straightforward mission. But they are crushing it. They are seriously crushing it. They are helping people in this region buy and sell their homes. You can check them out on the web, on social media, #LocalMatters. Great people, great team. Really happy to have them supporting our podcast. Today, I am with Justin Ihne. Interesting dude. I met Justin through Rotary, and he came to our region, the Plattsburgh-Champlain Valley region, a little over 2 years ago. Met him in Rotary. Really cool guy to talk to. He is now the CEO of the Plattsburgh-Malone YMCA. Yes, the Plattsburgh and Malone YMCA are the same organization, and he's in charge of it. Most people don't know that. We talk a little bit about music, his degree in musicology, ethnomusicology, but also what brought him to Plattsburgh. And then we also build up into a story of gumption that I think is really profound. And it's a moment when he finally decides to reach out to his father after nearly 30 years of an interesting relationship. But I'll let him talk about it. Enjoy episode 20, The Stories of Gumption. Gumption, defined as initiative, aggressiveness, resourcefulness, courage, spunk, guts, common sense, and shrewdness. Welcome to the podcast. This is Stories of Gumption with your host, Ryan Lee. All right, here we are. Today, I am with Justin Ihne. He's the CEO of the Plattsburgh-Malone YMCA. He's a fellow Rotarian. Love that. He's a fellow musician. and actually saw on his LinkedIn that he's got a bachelor's in musicology and ethnomusicology.
That's right.
Very cool. Well, welcome to the podcast.
This is great.
Justin Ihne.
This is so like Terry Gross and NPR. I love this. I always listen to those shows, and I'm like, what would it be like to be on those shows?
Yeah, we got the headphones. We got the mics.
I feel so like important.
I don't think my mic stand thingies are quite as fancy.
They look like, the ones you use for your desk light.
Yes. The Pixar lamp.
Oh, yeah. With microphone.
Yes.
I like that.
And I probably don't have as bougie of a microphone as they do either, but it works okay. Bougie. So, Justin,
yes.
I gotta say, man, when you and I first met, I knew you were bringing some real good energy to this community. I met you at Rotary.
You did, yes.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
And I remember you were trying to you were new in your current role as a CEO of the YMCA, took it over from a long-standing and well-respected previous CEO, and I imagine you were trying to figure out what you're going to do. What you're going to do with the Plattsburgh Y.
Yeah, it's funny because the greatest thing that could have happened when I first got here was go to Rotary, because it was just meeting everybody. It was within the first week I was here. So it was just like an onslaught of just, this is this person, and the community is so cool up here. They're really just welcoming, and it made it a much easier transition than one would have thought.
I've always said that we're blessed in Plattsburgh just because the community, like you said, it's one of those communities where it's just big enough where you're not going to meet everybody.
Right.
But it's just small enough where if you can really put yourself out there and give some goodwill back, it's going to take care of you, and you're going to meet a lot of people. When I was the director of the Boy Scouts, headquarters was down in Albany, and just from Albany to Plattsburgh, the difference is crazy.
Yeah.
You try and meet the CEO or the executive director of a particular organization, and it's so much harder.
Yeah.
Here, everybody's so accessible. You can call up whoever you want. They're like, yeah, here's my phone number. Let's do it.
Exactly. And that's what I say, the same thing. It's big enough that you don't see everybody every day, but small enough to really make a difference and be connected in the community. And luckily the Y has been seen as that, so it's been great to help build upon that and do what we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
I like it. I want to get into kind of some of the stuff that you've done since you've taken the helm at the Y.
Sure.
But first and foremost,
yes,
this is important.
Tell me.
You have a bachelor's in musicology and ethnomusicology.
Yeah.
I introduced you as a fellow musician. I love music.
Yes.
I play guitar. I believe you play guitar.
I do. I
play drum. I'm a music nerd.
Yeah.
But I don't know what that is.
So I went to Hunter College. I grew up in Brooklyn, so my schools were in that area, and then I wanted to be a marine biologist. Right, I was really fascinated with diving and animals and zoology and stuff.
Love it.
And whatever, it just didn't. I went to high school for architecture and illustration, so it was like I started to just want to do different things. And I took a class at a community college down in Brooklyn, and it was called the Music of the World's People. And I just fell in love. The whole class was listening to music from around the world and dissecting it and talking about the instruments and the culture around it. And I was like, this is great. And I'd been playing guitar and loving music and going to see a lot of music. And I just fell in love with this. So when I went to Hunter College, they didn't have a ethnomusicology program. So I kind of had to develop my own. And I connected with some of the professors there. And I said, this is really my interest. And Barbara Hampton is her name down in Hunter College. Awesome lady. And she was kind of my mentor throughout this whole thing. And I was starting to just collect instruments from around the world and learn all about, the culture around Indian music, and African music was a huge bit for me.
That's so cool.
So it was study of music from around the world, ethnomusicology. That was really where my passion was. And then I actually took a semester and traveled to West Africa, and I studied there for about 4 months. Just like in the bush at this school. It was crazy.
Nice.
It was totally crazy. And, but it was the best. Yeah, it was the best experience. Very cool.
Man. And that's the time to do it too. I've mentioned it a couple times in other episodes of the podcast, but I studied abroad in Australia.
Oh, nice.
For a semester.
Nice.
And you want to talk about like true immersion and, independence, like learn independence. That's a great way to do it. So I'm assuming you had the similar takeaways.
Yeah, not as many deadly creatures in my part that you were in. There's
Yes.
like every deadly creatures in Australia.
Yes. Yes. I talked to another guy that was on the podcast, Craig DeBoos. He works at Norsk Titanium.
Sure.
He's from Australia. He
Okay.
actually just got his citizenship in the U.S. His wife is Karen DeBoos from The Strand.
Yep.
Anyhow, he and I went on a big digression about just all the crazy stuff that can kill you down there.
Yeah.
And he was like so nonchalant about it. He's like, no, like you just got to know it's there and don't do something stupid. And I'm like,
right.
well, that's it. Like I'm the guy who would do something stupid. So, but anyhow.
Yeah, no, it was a transformative experience. I learned a ton of music. It was traditional African drumming, so it was 4 or 5 hours a day of just learning. The funny thing, and just really quick, so I'm used to you going to a classroom and there's a teacher and somebody who studied for like many, many years and comes in and shares, his knowledge or her knowledge onto you. So we would go into the school and start learning traditional African drumming, and our teacher, Agbeko was his name. And he would go, okay, I want to bring you in your teachers. And he would call in these like 6 and 7 year old kids who just knew this stuff like unbelievable. Great, because it's just part of their culture. So they would sit in front of us and they would show us the rhythms and show us, the songs. And we're super just like everything just goes out the door. All your ego, or you're just like, this guy's schooling me right now. Little 6-year-old, 7-year-old. But
Wow.
But just the best way to learn it. Yeah.
That's
so we
amazing.
had a good time. It was a lot of fun.
Dude, that's awesome. So is drumming still something that like is kind of a big piece of your musical creativity, or is it mostly guitar, or what else?
It's mostly guitar.
Okay.
That's really where I focused. I do have all my drums. I've actually just reconnected with a drumming group in the area, so I'm going to start to try to get out there a little bit more. I haven't yet. But guitar and vocals and that, and songwriting and stuff, that's really where my passion is. So,
nice.
Yeah.
You I assume done some live performing
I
here
have.
Or what, New York City?
In New York City,
Yeah.
A bunch of open mic nights. My favorite story is that my mom knows the folks that own the Bitter End down in New York City. Right, super famous club. Anybody who's played there, Stevie Wonder, Bob Dylan, Richie Havens. The list goes on, and was able to secure that place for a birthday party for her. And so for the past 10 or 12 years, we've had parties down there, and I've got to play on that stage. And that's just, I know I'm not playing to people who don't know me, but you're standing on that stage and you're playing, and it's very cool.
That is wicked cool.
Yeah.
Man, I could talk for hours and hours about that.
Let's have that podcast.
Yeah, we'll have you on again. We'll just talk music for hours. How'd you fall into the YMCA? Because this is not your first YMCA gig. You have been like a career-long lifer in the YMCA, right?
Yes.
Tell us about that. How'd you go from musicology to a love for what you do now?
So every summer as a kid growing up, starting at about 9 years old, I would go away. I got a scholarship to go to sleepaway camp in the Berkshires, Camp Beckett.
Nice.
And it was my mom and my brother and me living down in Brooklyn. She didn't have a whole lot of money, certainly not enough to send me away to 4-week sleepaway camp. And the local YMCA there was offering scholarships to the after-school program that I was attending. It wasn't a Y program. It was a I don't know, some sort of after-school program. And she jumped on it, and she got this scholarship. So for the next 7 years, I got a full ride to go up to the Berkshires for 4 weeks. Certainly, I joke that it gave my mom a break from me and my brother for a little bit, but it was that thing in life that kind of was the tipping point, because I was that kid. I was getting into fights and had a foul mouth and all of that stuff.
You? No way.
Me, yes. And it was hard for a long time to kind of not think of myself in that way, but this camp really was kind of that turning point for me. So fast forward, I kind of graduated, so to speak, out of a camper and became a staff person, and met a really close friend of mine who I worked with, and he then took a job at a YMCA in Kingston, New York. And the next summer he said, listen, why don't you come and work for me during the summer? So for the next 10 years, I would, live down in Brooklyn, go to school, and then I would go up for the summer. And it was so, and you've been in camp, so you know this feeling.
Oh, yeah.
Of just creating and having this kind of utopia, if you want to call it that, of just absolute creation of a summer camp. And we did that. And he's just a super visionary, super creative guy. But we had so much fun and really created this community. But anyway, so that started kind of my career path. And then a position opened up, and I met my wife at summer camp, and
perfect,
and then it just kind of rolled into director and senior director, and then I was the associate, and then I got associate director, and then I got all these other positions.
Wow.
And then landed here about 2.5 years ago.
How many different YMCA organizations have you worked for?
So there's been 4.
Okay.
So the big chunk was the Kingston and Ulster County Y.
Yep.
Then I took a CEO position at the Northern Berkshire Y in Western Mass.
Okay.
And then I was in the Wayne YMCA down in Wayne, New Jersey, part of the Metro of the Oranges. And then this position came up. So very different Ys, all around.
I can imagine.
The Northern Berkshire Y, it was a challenge. It was in a very impoverished community. All the textile industries in that area had left. North Adams was just it was a struggling town. The great thing is that the community was so strong and so supportive. And if you go back there now, things are just starting to, just come alive. So I was really honored to be a part of that community. And then living in New Jersey, everything you think about when you say that is true. It's super hustle and bustle, super, moving and shaking. And it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
I'd lived in Brooklyn. I went to Manhattan, to school in Manhattan. And so it was nice to then kind of get back up into the country, and I really think this is where I'm meant to be.
Nice. So what, 5.5 hours, 6 hours north there, and you knew of Plattsburgh, or you heard of Plattsburgh because you saw the job posting, and you're like, wow, that's way up there.
So you don't know how far. and everybody around here kind of jokes, Kingston was upstate New York for me growing up. It was like, oh, I'm going upstate. Oh, where? Kingston.
Yeah.
This is upstate New York. This is the true upstate. So, no, I didn't know too much about it. I had driven through here on the way to Montreal a few times. You start traveling from Albany to here, and you realize, you're in the Adirondacks for 2 hours,
Mm-hmm.
before you hit anything. So it was a little like, whoa, this is weird.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get here, and it just changes that whole construct for you. And there's so much going on here.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
There's so many things that are just kind of on the up and running, and businesses coming in, and so that was super encouraging. And the position opened up, and it was an opportunity, and I jumped on it, and it worked out.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So the podcast is about gumption,
Yes.
right? Stories of gumption, conversations with entrepreneurs, creative thinkers, and in my opinion, really, really impressive people. So
Okay.
you're one of those people, but I want to know, what does gumption mean to you?
Yeah. First of all, it's a great word, right? There's certain words out there that just seem to really match what they are.
Yeah.
So, so gumption for me was all about like taking that initiative, like something coming up that you were nervous about or a little kind of hesitant, and you stirred that up in you, and you went out there and you did it. And a lot of times for me, it's been that just putting yourself out there and going for it. The worst that can happen is you fail at it,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a learning lesson. But so gumption for me was all about taking that initiative, having the chutzpah.
Yeah,
just
that's a good
kinda,
word. Yeah, it's so funny, man. Just asking people what gumption means to them, because everybody's kind of like dovetailing on each other. But that's also why I love the word, is because it means so many slightly different things to so many people. But I would agree with you. Being able to just do something when it's hard like that and make the decision, that's certainly gumption to me. So what is your story of gumption, Justin?
Yeah. So I think for me, getting a little deep here, but was kind of the relationship with my father growing up. So it was my mom, my brother, and me. Dad left when I was like 2 weeks old.
Wow.
And it was a weird time, right? My mother had a really great group of friends and kind of support. So I never felt the need for wanting anything.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't rich at all. We were, I remember being on food stamps at one time for a very short period of time. But my father had come I remember meeting my father for the first time at the age of 5.
Wow.
Being outside the door of my house in Brooklyn, and this guy walks up, and I go, "Are you my dad?" Like a 5-year-old saying that. Thinking back on it, it's just weird.
Yeah.
So he was heavily into drugs and drinking. So there was this really kind of roller coaster relationship. And he would come in, he would take me and my brother out to movies and Coney Island and all this kind of stuff. And but then he'd be gone for another few years. So it started to just build up in me that this was a lowlife. This was somebody who I didn't want to connect with at all. And it just kind of built up in me of just having this kind of hatred for him. And so, flash forward 30 years of having that in you, right?
Yeah.
Having that feeling in you.
That's a long time
That's
to
a
carry
long time.
carry a feeling like that. I mean, not to go dig too deep on, but like I can only imagine. I'm about as privileged as it gets when it comes to having a supportive family, and mom, dad both like going to my band concert, and like, oh, I came home with something to do for school, and they're like trying to help me with it, like, and I recognize that now. But as a kid, I feel like whatever your reality is, you just like that's what my reality is for life, right? You learn so much from your parents, and to have that experience, I can't imagine what that must have felt like for 30 years.
I think after you get out of your kid zone, you become that older teenager or your 20s, and
Put
you,
up a wall,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
you
don't
wear
really
a suit
think
of armor
about,
with you.
exactly. You don't really think about it as much as you did as a kid. It comes up in weird ways, for you at different times, family events or people talking about their dad or, just things like that. But yeah, you just kind of hold on to it, and it was strange. And then so flash forward 30 years, my Aunt Irene, a wonderful lady. She has since passed away several years ago from cancer. She was a woman who was a foster mom for probably 20 years, I don't know, but had hundreds of kids that she fostered, right?
Wow.
So she's somebody who I really hold deep in my heart. But she was a straight shooter. She had a mouth like a truck driver, and it didn't matter how old the kid was in the house, or if the family was over, if she opened her mouth, she was going to tell it like it is, and I love that about her.
Love that. Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
I was on the phone with her one year when my daughter was born. And
how long ago was that?
My daughter was born 14 years ago.
Okay.
So I was, early 30s. And my father had started sending, like out of the blue, there had been a couple of connections with him, mostly funerals and these kind of things. But he started sending my daughter money, like bonds and things like that. And I immediately put that wall up again, like, who is this guy that's, want to try to make up, and now he's going to send money? Like, I was just negative.
Yeah, you're wearing this suit of armor, and you're like, hey,
like,
man, you don't have the right to do that without talking to me first, right?
Right. Or where do you get off? Where where does this come from after all this years? So I got on the phone with my Aunt Irene, and I started telling her, and she just had this much different approach to it. And she obviously had grown up with me throughout the years, right? Yep. I've known her all my life.
Yep.
So she knew of the history, and she agreed that, she was upset with him. That was her brother-in-law, and she was not happy with the way he treated.
Mm-hmm.
But she was like, listen, he's trying to do something, whatever that may be. It's not about me, Justin. It's about him trying to atone for something maybe, or just do something good for Marley, or give her some money. And then the conversation got into, how long are you going to hold on to this? Is it really doing me any good to do this? And there was that tipping point. And I was like, she was right. I wasn't going to have a relationship with this guy. I wasn't going to go golfing and have coffee and whatever with this guy. So this is where the gumption came in.
Yeah.
And I called him.
Wow. Just picked up
I picked up the phone after I got off the phone with her.
Holy smokes.
And because I knew if I waited and I thought about it too much, I wasn't going to do it.
Call reluctance would kick in.
It would be like I'd overthink it and blah, blah, blah.
I have this vision of you sitting by the phone, like getting fidgeting slightly, waiting to type the number in.
I was in this room in my house that had all my instruments around me, and I was just kind of sitting there, and I had the phone in my hand, and I was like, what the hell is it? And I was like, screw it.
Yeah.
And so I called him, and he got on the phone, and I said, listen, I'm good. Something like that. I said, I'm good. Whatever our history has had, it's in the past. There's no point for either of us, but me specifically, to hold on to this anger anymore. So we're good. We're not going to go out playing golf or have a cup of coffee, but let's just go on. Excuse me.
Wow.
And I could hear him getting all choked up, and he thanked me for the call. We had a couple of little, banters back and forth, and then the call ended. Wow. And it was just like this release of all of these years of this. And it was very cool.
I feel like that must have just been a crazy moment. You hang up the phone and did metaphorically, did you feel the armor just fall off? You know what I mean?
There was just this release, right? Yeah, there was like, there's nothing to be angry at anymore. It was like I was honing in on that for so long, and it just made life seem to. And then I got upset with myself for waiting so long. I was like, man, I could have did this 15 years ago.
Yeah. Do you think that's a common thing? I mean, I'd assume that's a common thing. There's a lot of people carrying around a similar feeling about something. Maybe it's not the exact same scenario, but maybe even listeners of the podcast say, wow, I've been carrying around this for 10 years, 15 years, 20. Like, I bet you that's pretty common. I bet you a lot of people have their own thing.
I'm sure. And family members, best friends, whatever. And it's come up in a couple of different times in my life with other people. And it's just like, what's it going to hurt for you to just go, we're good, and move on? If something comes back and the relationship comes back, that's great. Or it could just be, if I did something to upset you, I'm sorry. Like, we just don't do that.
Yeah.
We get in our way of ourselves, and we think, I shouldn't have to apologize. They should apologize.
Yeah.
Like, who the hell cares?
Neither of us are psychologists, but where do you think that comes from?
Well, I think back in the day.
Two dudes sitting at a mic with headphones on and drinking coffee. We're gonna figure it out. But no,
exactly.
I don't know where that comes from. I definitely recognize that that's a thing, though. People have pride. Maybe or I don't know.
Or they want to be
Protection.
right. Yeah.
They want to be. They don't avoiding conflict. That's crazy. So now, because of that phone call, I assume your relationship has improved.
Well, I guess, I don't mean to laugh. He's died.
Oh wow. Okay. This happened when around the time your daughter was born 14 years ago. And from then on to the remainder of his life, was it a little bit different, or was it just peaceful and the same?
We would connect and we would chat on the phone, maybe once or twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
And he would ask about the kids and what they were doing, and he had continued to kind of send some money for them, and for Christmas and birthdays and these kind of things. And he just wanted to, I don't know, he wanted to make peace with himself. And if that's what he wanted to do, then, good for him.
Yeah.
But it just also just came to the point for me, like, or I should say it helped in other ways throughout my life of just going, I'm just going to approach this person and go, hey, you said this the other day, and I kind of, I don't know what you meant by it. I don't think we do that enough.
Yeah.
Like we just get into this, and of course with, social media, and
you can hide behind a lot of barriers, a lot of technology. You can just avoid.
People read texts, so wrong, and then they're pissed.
You put 2 exclamation points and no emoji instead.
There's
not to make light of it, but
Peel and Keel, is that their name?
Yeah, Key and Peele.
Key and Peele, sorry. And I love them. They're hysterical. But there's a great one of them texting each other and it being misinterpreted. And their take on it is hysterical. But that's honestly what happens. Oh, this guy said, and they'll read you back the text, I want to talk to you. And I go, what if they just said, hey, I want to talk to you?
Yeah.
Like, why did you make an inflection in your voice reading a text? No, the person just said, they just said, I want to talk to you.
Yeah.
So we do that a lot, and I think just you got to talk it out.
Yeah. It's so crazy, the expectations of what meaningful communication is now. It's changing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm dealing with that staff at the Y, and their mode of text or of talking or communicating is texting. And we have to kind of rise to that and go, all right, this is how they want to be communicated with to a certain level. We have to kind of own that and meet them there. So
yeah. Well, dude, that's a wild story of gumption, man. That must have been hard to do, but certainly an example of gumption.
Good. I'm glad I got that right.
I like that. I like that a lot, and it definitely taps into your original meaning of gumption for sure.
Right.
I want to pivot a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about the why. So I'm excited about all the stuff you've been doing. I feel like you've been giving the place a facelift. You've been very active in our Rotary Club doing stuff. So you showed up on the scene, this gumptious dude, Justin Ihne, and he's like, okay, I'm in charge. What'd you do? What's the first thing you did? You walk and you sat in your office and you're like, what am I?
It's
like,
a bit of a whirlwind right now.
How'd that go?
Yeah. It was.
You just moved. You drove through the Adirondacks, brought your family up here, and you're like,
boom.
Oh,
well,
boy.
so I was actually here for 6 months before the family moved up.
oh wow,
So that stunk because family was still living in New Jersey, and I was traveling back and forth on weekends. And they would come up. It really felt like a divorced, couple having custody of kids. It was so weird.
that must
Kids
have
would
been
come
hard.
up, and we would have like a weekend, and then they go back to the mom. It was
Yeah.
just, so I got a very, very small taste of that, and I hated it. But the why, so like you mentioned, my predecessor had been there for a very long time and had brought this why from a very small operation to a much bigger one. He said it himself. He said it needs a new set of eyes on it. So that was great. That was great to be able to kind of, while you're going to do that anyway and kind of come in and evaluate, it's nice when you have that kind of baton passed off.
Yeah.
And you feel comfortable, or at least more comfortable. And it's not, and I'm going to say this, and it's not cliche, but it's not me. There's a great team of staff at the Y. And if you have that in any business, then you're golden. There's certain standards, there's certain things you want to portray, customer service, little bits that you want to impart on your place. But the staff have to kind of own that and believe in it and then run with it. And they have. So that's made it easier. We've had to make some changes, and change is difficult, right? Everybody loves change except when it happens to them, right?
Yeah.
So we had to kind of revamp things a little bit and think a little bit differently. We have to be more integral part of the community and partnering up. And this is something that's certainly not new to our YMCAs all around the country. Do this more and more. They cannot do it alone. They need to partner with hospitals and mental health agencies and churches and synagogues and just anybody who really wants to be a part of that. So that's been a part of it as well. Just kind of reintroducing us to the community. There had been a lot of people I met in the community that lived here a long time and were like, oh yeah, the Y. And it was really weird conversations to be talking to people that have been here for that long and kind of had forgotten about us. Or, oh, you do swimming? Like, yeah, we have great swimming programs.
That's crazy.
So it all stemmed upon reintroducing us to the community. And with that came more programming. With that came fundraising. And really,
I was going to say, it seems like the biggest thing that I've noticed is sort of more public campaigning and discussion about, hey, like, we kind of need your money and support to make sure we can do the great things we do. And like that message, at least being around for a while, I don't think I'd seen that money. It's kind of a straightforward message like, hey, money pays for program, but we need sort of a campaign around that's community focused.
Yeah, that's right. And you got a good taste of that
Yeah.
this year, being one of our campaigners and helping us kind of share that message.
Well, yeah, I mean, regardless of I think you're doing great stuff, but like regardless of who's at the helm and like the Y here in Plattsburgh has done an amazing service for me as an individual. And
Okay.
I think I've told you this, that I went through the swimming lesson program.
Right.
Seems so simple, but my parents put me in the swimming lessons program, and it led me to being camp counselor, working on a waterfront, and
Right.
that sends you on a trajectory. Just a simple skill, a life skill of swimming. I mean, I'd be a totally different person, I think.
And so you just bring up perfect example of something that I don't think we were doing enough of, and that was telling these stories. So everybody I met in the community, who I talked to about the Y, the first thing, I swear, every single person that I met has a story about the Y. Oh yeah, I went there, or I sent my kids there. Everybody's talking about these transformative situations of swim lessons and such. Or after school, or they went to Camp Jericho, or they had a job at the Y. All these things is what we need to make sure the community knows about.
Mm-hmm.
So the fundraising piece was important, right? Because so we offer financial assistance, and you know this. We offer financial assistance. We don't turn people away if they qualify for our financial assistance program. So we had been allocating all of these dollars for many, many, many years. Last year was like $130,000.
Yeah.
Right? For membership, for program.
It's a big chunk of change for a nonprofit.
Big chunk of change for a nonprofit, right? What other business would go, that's a perfect model?
Yeah, let's just give away $150,000 for free.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And have no...
And then no way to replenish it.
So, this annual campaign was all about... and why this is, again, nothing new. YMCA's all around the country do this every year. We had not done it in this fashion for many years. So, here comes the new guy, and he's going to introduce this. And that was, talk about gumption. There's another piece. Like, we're going to start fundraising like we haven't done before in a community that knows of us or may not. We're not on their radar for giving. And it was such a success. It was, we just finished our second year, and both years we exceeded our goal, and we're starting to bridge that gap between that 130 and what we raise.
Yep.
So this was big for us in this area, and the staff embraced it, board embraced it, community embraced it, and everybody came out and was like, "We believe in the Y." So that's been really, really incredible for me.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I mentioned before you did some facelift stuff.
Yeah.
You did some upgrades to the actual building and equipment, right?
Yeah. We've in the past 2 years we've basically upgraded all of the cardio and weightlifting equipment. Again, just it's the tools that we need to do what we need to do. But we had old stuff in there, and we just didn't have a plan to replace that.
Yeah.
So we've, again, with the board and the staff, we've built it into our budget to make sure that we have some capital dollars every year to kind of put back and start reinvesting in our members. These are members that have been coming for a long time and have seen this old equipment. And so it's been nice to be able to do that. And then we have our other locations as well, right? We have Camp Jericho, wonderful 400-acre piece of property up in Altona for our day camp. We've starting to put some dollars in there and get grants from Kiwanis Club and Rotary and really give that a facelift. And we have our childcare facility over on Northern Avenue here, Bright Beginnings.
I always forget about that.
Yeah. Great program over there. Jackie Prather's the director. She's been in this community forever. Knows every single person, what they do, where they work, their kid. I mean, she's amazing. And then we have our location out in Malone. So we're trying to, strengthen what we got and then slowly start to branch out. And that's really been the model.
What's if there was one message you could give to the listeners about the future, the why, what they can expect, or maybe even how they can help be part of your strategic vision moving forward. I'm kind of putting you on the spot a little bit, but what's a message you'd want the listeners to hear about where you're going, where they could be excited about the future, and how maybe they could be part of it?
I think you hit upon it. I think being excited about the future, we're having conversations now about, where is our Y going to be in the next, 5 years. We're still going to be here. Don't get the wrong impression. But what are we going to look like for this community? Will we be in a different location? Will we be bigger? Will we have, more programming going on? We just started programming out in Saranac Lake.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
So we have after-school program starting there in the fall. We did some this past spring. We have communities that are reaching out to us and saying, hey, we would love to connect with you. So I think you start seeing this Y really spanning out and covering its service area, a lot more. What can people do? I think the volunteer aspect of things is huge for us, and we need to strengthen that. So whether it be volunteering for one of our sports programs, volunteering for our, being on our board. Our board is becoming, I shouldn't say becoming. It's been a strong board for many years, but we're growing that board, and it's really it's a doer. It's a group of people that really want to get things done. I think that volunteer aspect, and then for the campaign, that's something that's going to grow. So you're just gonna see that that presence in our community strengthen, and become more of that household name, I think.
I like it. I am going to pivot once more.
Yes.
And I'm going to come at you fast here with the stories of gumption rapid fire section.
Dun, dun, dun.
I'm going to throw.
You gotta have the good music in there.
Gumption. Yeah, that's musicology. All right. I digress. I'm going to come at you with some questions.
Yeah.
I want you to think what pops into your head and just give me an answer.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
All right.
Okay, here we go.
Yes.
Justin, question number 1. What is a book that you would gift to a friend, and why?
See, I'm not a huge reader, so that's a tough one. But, okay. Sean Achor, Achor, Happiness Advantage.
Interesting. Happiness Advantage. And it's rapid fire, so I didn't know if I was able to explain what this is. Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
No, yes, I should have clarified. You can explain your answer.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So the Happiness Advantage, you got to see his TED Talk.
Okay.
Again,
what's his name?
Sean Achor.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I'm going to pronounce his last name wrong, but it's Achor, Sean. And he talks about, it's really funny TED Talk, but his whole premise, and this has been studied, in laboratories and at Harvard, and talking about how positive thought can really physically influence your life. And can really change the way you think about things. And he also talks about how you can reprogram your brain with simple steps to think more positively. And I was fascinated with this guy. I actually got to meet him. He came to a YMCA conference, and I was like, a little schoolgirl, giddy, and like, I have to tell you, every famous person that I've met, I have screwed up the situation. It's just, I don't know what it is.
Like who? You got to tell me now.
I've met, so I met Mandy Patinkin.
Okay.
Princess Bride,
Yep.
right? Inigo Montoya. So he was in a Home Depot. And I saw him, and I'm like, oh, my God, I know this guy. Where do I know? I called my wife. Of course, she knows these little bits of information out of nowhere. She's like, "Oh, that's Mandy Patinkin." I'm like, "Oh," and so I go up to him and I go, "You're my," what did I say? "You're my favorite fan," or something like that. And I was like, no, I'm your favorite fan. And it just got very awkward very quickly. And he literally was like, "I got to go somewhere else." No, he shook my hand and he quickly walked away. But I've met musicians and it's just always, I've always screwed it up. I don't know.
You like, I mean, you cool. I like you.
I like you. Me like you. Me like you lots. So it's horrible. So anyway, I met this guy, Sean, and he's a great guy. But this book, The Happiness Advantage, you got to check it out.
Okay, I dig it. See, I get an advantage. I'll never finish all these books, I don't think, but
Yeah, your list must be.
Yes, I've crushed some of them though. So luckily, every once in a while, someone suggests a book that's not super long. So that
This is an easy read.
I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, number 2.
Yes.
If you were told you could only have one more meal, that's it. What's it going to be?
So I'm going to flip the question on you.
What?
It's not the importance of the meal.
Oh.
It's who I'm eating with.
Okay.
I'm gonna.
So it could be like whale blubber, but as long as you're with the right people.
Listen, I bet you that we could find a restaurant that cooks whale blubber super amazing.
I bet it's not bad if you. Yeah, the fat is usually good. People like fat, I guess. But blubber, that might take it to a new level.
Yeah.
I mean,
if I had to answer, it would be, I love seafood. Just getting into a lobster and just like sucking up all the juices.
Yep.
And getting into all the things. But if it was my last meal, it would be like, who am I having that with?
Yeah.
It would be super important.
I like it. Here's one. Number 3. If you could have a billboard anywhere in the world, what would you put on it?
These are great. These are really good questions. So I
join the Plattsburgh YMCA. No, you can't.
I can't do that one. So we have this saying in our house with our kids. Whenever there is, I don't know, an argument or if something went wrong or whatever, but we'd always say, "Show your love." It was just something we said to the kids. So, hey, did you show your love today? You know what? And I'd love to see that on a billboard. I think we got to show our love a little bit more. And things have just been crazy in the world. And,
crazy.
And I don't think we show our love enough.
It's amazing how much people are easily triggered to get angry rather than take a breath and.
Yeah, what the hell?
It's bad.
It's really bad, and it's scary. And when you're bringing up kids during this time, there is lots of conversations because they're seeing and hearing things, not understanding. When we're talking about racism and these kind of things, my kids, they don't know it, but they haven't been affected by that, right? So clearly it's just not been a topic of conversation. So when we start talking about, there's these people in other parts of the country that really believe that, that people that are different than them are lesser than them. And they're having these just, kid answers of just like, that's stupid.
Yeah.
Like, why? I have a friend in class. He's looks different than me, but we have a great time on the playground. We have so much fun.
Yeah.
He answers the questions just like me in math class. It's like, I wish we would do more of that, but I digress. But show your love.
Show your love.
Show your love.
I like it. That's a good answer. What piece of advice, this is question number 4, what piece of advice would you go back and give to your 18-year-old self if you could?
Everything is going to be okay. Don't overthink it. I think it's one of my character flaws, I think, is that I tend to overthink things. And it still gets to the place that we need to be, but it's like, I always some would say, because I'm a Libra, right? You're weighing things all the time.
Yep.
But yeah, so maybe don't overthink it.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. This is my favorite question of the podcast. Number 5. If we could put together a 3-person board of directors to shape, guide, and mentor you through the rest of your life,
Nice.
Who would those 3 people be and why? They can be alive, deceased, famous, or not, but who would you choose to be your 3 board of directors and why?
Yeah, so, wow. This is a tough one.
I love it.
This is a good one.
Every time I ask this question, 9 times out of 10, you all of a sudden you can see like the clock gears and everybody's brains start going click, 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 click. Things are moving real fast.
It's too easy to pick, my wife and my best friends, right? Because that's kind of already my circle.
They're your board of directors currently.
Yeah. So this is different.
You could list them if you wanted.
Yeah, I guess. But so I've had some really influential people in my life over the years. Immediately, the guy that comes to me is camp director of Camp Beckett when I was growing up. His name is Lloyd Griffith.
Mm-hmm.
And he was always there for me. At least I felt that way. He had hundreds of other kids, but I would get a call from him midwinter, like checking up on me.
Wow.
Like, how's school going? Everything going well? Blah, blah, blah. It was like, he didn't have to do that at all. And I'm sure there's probably a whole dozen other kids that he did that to. At that time, it was just me, and I was very impressed with that and thankful. And I've seen him years later, and he's a good guy, and he'd always been good to me. And he's also a couples counselor, I believe now. And but I think him at that table, he would be a good voice of reason and weighing, and I think he would be a good one. Kind of, I think of this as like who would be in my ear, like kind of giving you advice, your cabinet, your group.
You're about to screw that one up. Don't do that.
Right. No. Don't overthink it. My Aunt Irene, I'd probably put in there as well, because she was just, she was just a straight shooter, and I think that would be fun. I think I might get a little tired of that after a little while, but no, she would be wonderful.
Yeah.
And then either like a George Carlin or like a Jon Stewart.
Ooh, okay.
Something of that. 2 super smart comedians, but so real, right? I mean, their comedy is based in reality, in that they're really talking about, what's going on around us. And did you ever look at it this way? I've always been impressed with those 2. And I think one of them, maybe Jon Stewart in my corner, kind of going, I'm not quite sure about that.
Well, he's passionate and driven to the things he believes in, such as the recent firefighter support that he went to Congress for, and he's also can make light of things and make it less serious and make you laugh a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've always admired that, about him, but yeah. So that would be my crew.
I love it. Well, this has been another episode of Stories of Gumption, man. I really appreciate you coming on. I hope you had a good time.
Thank you.
Do you have a sending message for the listeners?
Oh God, come to Plattsburgh. Check it out.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful area. Got so much to offer. Great people. But and stop by the Y.
I like it. Well, thanks again, everybody. This is Justin Ihne, the CEO of the Plattsburgh-Malone YMCA, and thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Ryan.